Well, Viz has completed the Gold and Silver story arc of Pokemon Adventures. But that's a subject for another day. Today, we're talking about The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time manga.
The game was originally released in 1998 for the Nintendo 64. Since then, it has been released as a pre-order bonus on a collection disc on the Virtual Console, and more recently has been remade in 3D. The manga that I'll be focusing on is written and drawn by Akira Himekawa. Akira Himekawa is the pen name for the collaborative effort of A. Honda and S. Nagano. So far, they have written 10 volumes. There are several other manga by different authors and even a few American comics, but for right now I'm just going to focus on the Himekawa Zelda.
Well, let's go through Volume 1 of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
I'm going to pull a Linkara and comment on the cover. I spy with my little eye something the color red. The Triforce of Power has previously been associated with the color red during the animated cartoon, the Zelda comics, and in the Captain N TV show. However, in these instances, it was just the Triforce of Power, not the entire thing. This actually seems to be from the Japanese cover and isn't something I can blame Viz on. Thankfully, it's fixed in the next 2 volume mangas. Also, the background image looks like it was pulled from Google image search and had some Photoshop effects applied to it. On the back, there's the official Nintendo seal and the age rating. Why did I bring these up? Well, the official Nintendo seal was on the first printing of Pokemon Adventures. However, it wasn't placed on the second. I have no idea why. If I had to guess, it would probably be because the Pokemon Company International now handles the Pokemon franchise, not Nintendo. The other thing is that this is the exact same age rating as their reprint of Pokemon Adventures. Please keep this in mind as we go through the mangas. The third and final thing is, I seem to remember the Ocarina of Time being blue, not purple or pink or whatever that is.
First and foremost, this is an adaptation. There are multiple things that they change, and I'll try to point them out as we go along. Unfortunately, I'm mostly going by memory since someone has borrowed my copy of the game.
Volume 1 opens up with a woman fleeing on horseback in a storm and dying in front of the Great Deku Tree.
Wow. I really hope you've played through the game because we're not even 2 pages in and there are major spoilers. The fact that Link isn't a Kokairai and is instead a Hylian wasn't something found out until much later.
Anyways, this is just a dream that Link is having. At the start of the game, Link gets his fairy. However, here we go through a couple of pages of character development. This involves Link being bullied by the other Kokairai. He also talks with Saria, showing her the slingshot he made. I like this, it shows him as a resourceful person. Where others might have had their fairies knock a fruit out of the tree, Link has made a way to get past his disadvantage. They also wonder what the world is like outside the forest. Link goes to bed, wondering if the Great Deku Tree will ever allow him out of the forest.
Then the plot happens!
We are now where the game has started, with the Deku Tree being cursed and sending Navi to Link. Link's reaction is much like a kid on Christmas morning. The Kokairai gather around the Great Deku Tree, and Goma appears demanding a stone.
Okay, here's a stone.
I actually found it amusing that there is a boss subtitle, however, this is the only time it happens in this volume. Goma quickly goes back into the Great Deku Tree, and Link follows. However, I think Link is a bit of an idiot. He rushes in to fight Goma with nothing more than his slingshot and 8 Deku Nuts. Mido also follows with the Kokairai dagger. We also get to witness Goma eating the Great Deku Tree. And here is something that I should have talked about in my Pokemon Adventures reviews. Goma is defeated by 1 attack to the eye from a Deku Nut. In this adaptation, most of the bosses go down in 1 hit. For me, this does very little to actually make Link seem strong. It just makes the enemies seem weak and pathetic. It also makes Ganondorf look like a moron for sending minions who have the equivalent strength to a Goomba. There may be exceptions that allow the fight to be over in 1 attack, but this isn't one of them. To make matters worse, Goma was defeated by a single Deku Nut. As far as I can remember in the games, the Deku Nut only has the capabilities to stun monsters. It is not able to hurt opponents. Although, while a nut the size of your fist hitting your eye may hurt, it probably isn't enough to kill you. The Great Deku Tree informs the Kokairai that he is going to die. Now, let's go back to the age rating again. The characters say die quite a lot, and this is one of the many reasons why I think the partial censorship in Pokemon Adventures is complete and total bullcrap. Besides having no consistency between the volumes in their own series, there is also no consistency between works that have the same age rating. And I'm gonna get off this subject before people burn me at the stake. Link is devastated and begins to cry, saying that he has fought so hard to save the Great Deku Tree.
Objection! You just fired 8 Deku Nuts, only 1 of them hit her weakness. The only reason you knew about her weakness was because Mido threw a rock into Goma's eye and Navi noticed. You didn't go through a dungeon, you just walked right into the Deku Tree and the battle began. You did next to nothing!
Once again, this is an adaptation, and I will accept there being some liberties taken, such as cutting down the dungeons. Something that might be interesting to play doesn't necessarily make itself an interesting thing to read. However, this is annoying since they are telling, not showing. If Link fought hard, show it. I don't consider taking down the first boss in the game hard, especially when it was enough of a wimp to die from an item that only stuns you. The Great Deku Tree explains what Link has to do, giving him the Kokurai Emerald and soon dies. In the game, the Deku Shield was just an item bought at the shop. Here it becomes a memento of the Great Deku Tree. Link then departs from the forest, receiving the Kokurai Dagger from Mido and the Fairy Ocarina from Saria. In Hyrule Castle Town, Link is hungry and unknowingly steals some food. He, however, lacks any money and is probably really glad that he isn't in Link's Awakening right now. The shopkeepers try to take the Kokurai Emerald as payment. However, a young girl pays for him and they play around Castle Town for the whole day. Link finally asks for the girl's name, but some Gerudo thieves appear. Link tries to fight them off, and they probably would have kicked his ass if Impa wasn't coming, so they flee. The girl turns out to be Princess Zelda, wishing to act like a normal girl for the day. And she goes back to the castle with Impa. When Link returns to where he left the girl, he finds the Ocarina of Time. The next day, Princess Zelda begs her father not to meet with Ganondorf, because she has been having dreams. Being a complete moron, he just ignores his daughter's wishes, saying that they live in a time of peace.
Wow, that's as stupid as Viz currently not translating volumes 15 to 29 of Pokemon Adventures. There is no way that can come back and bite them in the ass. Oh wait. Also, Ganondorf's current title is the King of Thieves. That just paints a completely trustworthy picture for me.
In King Moron's defense, I'm sure Ganondorf has been feigning loyalty for a while. He is apparently trusted enough to walk around Hyrule Castle unattended. Link sneaks into the castle. Unfortunately, no cardboard boxes appear. Link then meets face-to-face with Princess Zelda. Unlike the game, Ganondorf appears in the courtyard. He mentions that this land is filled with beauty. All I'm reminded of is his speech at the end of Wind Waker, where he said he coveted the land because the wind brought life. He also asks about the Ocarina of Time and quickly leaves. Zelda explains her dream about how she saw someone with a fairy and a green jewel. They make their plan for stopping Ganondorf, and Link sets his sight on Death Mountain. For the Goron Ruby and the Zora Sapphire, the only things that has changed is some scenes involving Epona. Out on Hyrule Field, Epona has escaped from Lon Lon Ranch. Link plays the Ocarina, and Epona comes to him. He then rides Epona to Death Mountain. In both sections, Link talks to the leader, enters the dungeon where the boss is apparently waiting for him at the entrance, and then he beats him with one attack. Barainade's battle in particular reveals that Link has been receiving sword training off-panel from Roy, and his sword is now capable of creating a massive explosion. With all three jewels, Link sets off to see Princess Zelda. However, he soon finds out that Hyrule Castle is on fire. In the game, you only saw Zelda and Impa fleeing. Here, Link goes to the castle to try and protect Zelda. However, Ganondorf has already cornered Princess Zelda and informs her that, "I put the king to sleep forever." I'm just going to go with Ganondorf saying this to be cruel to Princess Zelda, intentionally talking down to taunt her. Zelda and Impa escape. Somehow, Link is actually able to keep up with the horse. Zelda throws the Ocarina of Time to Link. Unlike the game where it lands in the moat, it lands on the bridge and actually bounces, making a clunk sound.
I always thought the Ocarina of Time was made out of something fragile. To the internet!
From what I could find, the common materials used to make ocarinas are ceramic, plastic, wood, clay, or metal. I'll just assume that since it's a magical object, it won't break until the plot demands it to. Ganondorf sees the ocarina. Link tries to protect it, but since this isn't Super Smash Bros. Melee, he gets his ass kicked by Ganondorf. During the struggle, Link loses the fairy ocarina, and Ganondorf takes it, thinking it's the Ocarina of Time. Link goes to the Temple of Time and pulls out the Master Sword.
And we all know what happens next.
After 7 years of magical sleep, Link wakes up. Thankfully, Rauru is there to explain the plot. Link has to go to the 5 temples and awaken the 5 remaining sages. Rauru also explains that Link isn't a Kokiri and is actually a Hylian. This was originally handled by the Deku Tree Sprout after the Forest Temple. However, the Deku Tree Sprout doesn't make an appearance. We jump to Castletown where there is a single brave lone soldier trying to fight off 3 Stealthos. Link comes in and saves the soldier, and is a complete badass while doing it. And once again, his sword creates an explosion. There is also 2 pages that give us the Cliff Notes version of the plot as Link travels to where Hyrule Castle used to be.
I've wanted to do this for quite a while, so please forgive me. Bus driver, move that bus!
a Poe appears and taunts Link. Link quickly cuts through him with the Master Sword, but soon finds out that he is exhausted. Navi attributes this to using the sword's power. However, I'd like to attribute it to him just waking up from a 7-year coma, and it's a miracle that he is even able to move right now. Ganondorf learns about Link from the Stalfos that was just killed. Apparently, the Stalfos' name is Stal-Lord.
Stal-Lord? No. Stal-Lord was a boss in Twilight Princess and Link's crossbow training.
Ganondorf then decides that he needs to steal the Ocarina of Time.
Ladies and gentlemen, the King of Evil, fear his villainy as he plans petty thievery. Okay, seriously, why?
The Ocarina of Time was used to open the door to the Sacred Realm. Ganondorf no longer needs it as he has the Triforce of Power now. In the games it has other powers, but they wouldn't be of any use to him with the exception of the Song of Storms. And this isn't the Wind Waker. The Ocarina of Time isn't restoring the Master Sword's powers. His problem is the Sword of Evil's Bane and the Hero of Time. In this story, the Ocarina falls to the background. It is only used 2 more times in this volume and only used 1 time in the next volume. Link meets up with Mido and they go into the Forest Temple. Phantom Ganon appears and trips Link up using his Super Mario 64 magic. Mido finds the fairy bow and some arrows, and apparently it uses up all his strength and courage to throw them to Link, as the next time he is seen, he is unconscious. With Phantom Ganon defeated, Saria awakens as the Sage of the Forest.
And now it's time for that completely awesome boss battle of Whack-A-Mole with Volvagia! How will the manga do it? This is going to hurt.
In the game, Volvagia was a dragon that was killed by a Goron hero. However, it was revived by Ganondorf. In the manga, Volvagia is a dragon that Link bought when he was a child. This is where Link has to grow up. While Link may be physically older, he is still mentally 9 years old. During their first confrontation, Link freezes and is unable to do anything and falls in the lava. Apparently, he was wearing the Goron tunic, which was somehow able to save him. Twilight Princess Link will once again demonstrate what happens in real life when someone falls in lava. Sheik saves him and bandages him up. This is also the first time they meet in the manga, as opposed to the game where they met soon after Link woke up. Sheik says that the only way to break the curse is to kill Volvagia. Link believes that there must be some other way for Volvagia to remember him, and we go into a flashback. In Hyrule Castletown, he sees a baby dragon for sale for the low price of 70 rupees. His narration tells us that it was shortly after he left the forest, which of course is a blatant lie. Since we know he had no concept of money, and his first day was spent with Princess Zelda, I think that this was probably set in between the Goron Ruby and the Zora Sapphire. He buys the dragon to set it free in the wild. The dragon, however, follows him around and they eventually become friends. Back in the present, Link faces off against Volvagia. He shouts out for the dragon to remember him, but it's no use. Link is then forced to slay the dragon. For a brief moment before dying, the curse is lifted and Volvagia says a single word. And Link, one of Nintendo's greatest badasses, begins to cry. The chapter isn't over yet, as it's time for another change. In this adaptation, Sheik is a servant of Ganondorf. There is a reason for this, and it's explained in the next volume. In Kakariko Village, Link meets up with Impa, Viz left in a Japanese honorific, and Link reunites with Epona. Link also receives a bit of training from Impa. After one of the training sessions, something comes out of the well. Instead of being Bongo Bongo, it's Dark Link, and Link has to face himself. The volume ends with Link getting his ears pierced and setting off on Epona to go to Zora's domain.
This manga is awesome!
The focus is more on the story and character development rather than the action. At times, things feel rushed, most notably the boss battles in the dungeons. The art is good, although there is a few moments where it could have used some cleaning up. The changes bring a unique perspective to Ocarina of Time, and I always find it interesting to see how other people play through the games and perceive things. This is a great start to the Himekawa Zelda manga.
Today, we're talking... oh crap, I have the wrong volume.